focus in. We've got a lot of work to do, and we have wonderful Miriam Charney here to work with us. I'm going to leave it to Gordon to do the introductions, and I will pass out paperwork.
Okay, I just wanted to talk briefly about the contemporary opera scene, because my first opera job was in 1980 in the Michigan Opera Theater with David D. Cara, who was the president of Opera America, and they started an initiative called Opera in the 80s and Beyond, and then they expanded on that several times, and so now there's a new explosion of contemporary opera, which is being performed, written, produced, and performed all over the country. It's very important that you have the skills to know how to manage that material. So, for example, Steve Osgood, who is with Composers of the Voice with AOP, and the artistic director of Chautauqua Opera, recently posted a page of music from The Ghost of Versailles. And the line of music went here, then there was a blank, and then the line of music continued down here. And Steve wrote in the score, "Stop conducting," because there was nothing for him to do while something was happening. So you don't want to open a contemporary score and look at it and scream in terror about how am I going to learn this music, right? And also, if you're a performer, you're going to have to learn a lot of music quickly if you're being successful, right? And so you have the expert on contemporary opera, because I've worked with Miriam at Chautauqua at Manhattan School of Music, and she created a contemporary opera ensemble where they did scenes, and I mean they did many difficult things, and they did it always so expertly because of her work with them, right? And you're still with Chautauqua Opera,
Yep,
and Stephen?
yep,
Yeah, and he's brought more contemporary work to that program too.
Right.
So anyway, you're going to be in such expert hands. Let's give Miriam a big hand.
Thanks very much. And I actually was a part of that production, that the Ghost of Versailles. And it wasn't only that he had to stop conducting. It was here he had to give cues like this, which were different than other kind of cues, because there were cues in triangles in the score and cues in squares. It's a completely original, not completely, but a lot very original notation that Corelliano had to create because of what he wanted to happen. And I played rehearsals, which is one thing, and then I was in the pit playing piano, and at one point I had to use a guitar pick for a G sharp. And first we had to find a guitar pick, which I got from Steve, which he got from his son. And the note just happened in the middle of a million things, and I'll tell you, we had 3 performances, and I missed it twice. Because I'm watching him, and there's so much else going on, and I kind of, that was it. And nothing happened, the world didn't stop. I didn't die. I felt terrible because it was my only guitar pick cue, but the whole orchestra was having, a lot of the orchestra was having trouble with the score. The oboist half the time was just kind of throwing up his hands saying, I don't know where we are in rehearsal. Mainly we didn't have quite enough rehearsals. But Steve had to do, as a maestro for that, he had to do so many different things in so many different different qualities and different contexts. When you're a conductor, do me a favor, don't look at your stuff yet, because then because I'm going to talk about it all. When you're a conductor, you're following. Well, actually, what is the point of a conductor in an opera? In the performance. Does anybody know why they're there? What they're there for mainly? Yeah. Sorry if I point. Pardon?
Keep you in time.
Keep who in time?
Everybody.
So the stage and orchestra.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. What they're there for, it's not interpretive in performances. Hopefully that has all been said in all the rehearsals beforehand. It's to keep the stage and the pit together. And to know how to do this, and to do this when things get off. That's mainly what it's about. So it's a huge job. I'm not belittling it at all. But there are all these other things to do when that's going on. And what we have to do is make sure that we've learned enough about everything else so that we can give the conductor, give the orchestra, give our colleagues on stage what they need. Now, one of the things, I've worked with Lucy Shelton a lot. I'm not gonna do a big bio here, but she's called the new music diva, and she mostly does contemporary chamber music, except now at a kind of an advanced age. She's doing her first opera, which is Kaya Sariaho's, which she did first there, and now it's touring all over the world. So it's a great experience for her. But she has really codified a lot of ways to make learning this music a little less difficult, a little less complicated, or at least, as I'm always saying, how to organize this stuff. If you don't organize it, you know, it's like walking into a house and realizing that someone else has been living there for 3 months, and where are you gonna put your stuff, or what are you gonna do? You have to start somewhere, and you can't just start with all of it. You have to figure out a way to organize it, to reduce and kind of diffuse the complexity of the situation, which is exactly what we have to do with this. So with contemporary music, how would we reduce the complexity of what we're looking at? Do you have, let's see, what do you have? I think there was one other thing that I wanted to send to everybody. Sorry. Yeah. So can I airdrop this to everybody? It's just a couple of pages. Somebody tell me how to do that here. Yeah. Okay, great. So I just want to, I want to airdrop this.
I don't know about my phone.
Airdrop that, Rev 23. It's just 3 pages, yeah, but just that one. They have everything else. To share and then.
Okay, make sure your airdrop is turned on to receive from everybody.
Yeah, because I don't want that for 10 minutes.
And we should start seeing people pop up here. Okay, well,
So just everybody.
Lana, just say yes if I call. There's phone.
That's me.
Joe Clean's iPad.
Yes.
iPad 7.
Yeah, that's true.
iPad 381. People, name your devices. iPad 381. iPhone 5. Something clever.
Me.
iPhone.
Me.
Susan Gale's iPhone.
Yeah.
Donna's iPhone.
Yes.
Joe's iPhone.
Yeah.
Anyone missed?
Mine is iPhone, but I didn't get anything yet.
iPhone 5.
Just plain.
Just iPhone.
Just
Yeah, I don't know how
iPhone,
to
yeah,
change
there it
it.
is.
Either. I think mine's like iPhone 387 or something.
Oh,
I got it.
Okay.
This one, there, it went.
It's sending
Oh,
Sammy.
got it.
iPhone 5, did someone miss?
It's Rev 23 Prelude, you should all get that out?
Okay, cool.
Yeah?
Yay!
Okay, thanks. Okay, so you look at this score, okay? Doesn't matter what the voice is, doesn't matter who it is, but this just arrived in the mail. So we used to get new pieces of music. You would get them quite in advance and they would send you a score. Now they send you a PDF and it may say PDF all over it, or it may say not for publication, not for sharing. The first thing, of course, you have to do after you download it, if you use paper, you have to print it, which is what I do. And if you're going to work with a pianist, which most of you probably will do, you have to share it, despite the fact that it says don't share. So the companies just know that that's going to happen, but you shouldn't share it otherwise. Even though people say, ooh, that's such a great aria in the hours, do you have it? Well, there's copyrights and there's very small ways for composers to make, and librettists to make money. So better not to share unless you ask them. So that's the first thing you do, right? And then you look at this, and then, as Gordon said, then you freak out, okay? You get 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes to freak out. And then you think, okay, I have to learn this in a week. What do I do? So I would look at it, and then I would call my pianist and say, I think in 3 days I could see you, or in 5 days. Or you call the person who helps you learn music, which is not necessarily your pianist. So you organize your time in terms of that stuff, how to work on it. And then you look back at it, and what do we look at here? So we have 2 pages or 3? 2, just 2 pages. What do you see? Just describe what you see on the page. Anybody, just call out.
Complex time signature and rhythm.
Okay. As in 12/16? As in what else?
Like just the 8/9, all this. I'm assuming is some sort of, I forgot what the term is for.
I'm sorry, some sort of what? When you have this, which looks like a, mathematical term, what does that mean? Guess.
8/9, what's called it?
8/9 meaning,
Like you're singing 8 notes, but the feel is 9? Or you're singing,
right, so it's
You
not
know what I'm saying,
necessarily
right?
8 notes. In the
Yeah.
space of 9 beats, it's
Yeah.
8. So when you think about that, what goes through your mind?
Fast.
That would be even without the 8 part. Yeah. Well, how do we know this is fast? What's the first way we know that?
So it's live.
Lively, what else?
The piano part.
Pardon, the piano part, what else? What does it say next to lively? This is post Beethoven, so what are you gonna get?
You're getting
A metronome mark. The number of singers that I work with, and I say, well, how fast is this gonna go? And they say, I don't know. And I say, well, did you look at the metronome mark? I don't know. You people kind of sometimes miss that. It's extremely important, and it isn't, it's not, you don't find it, if it's Mozart, it's not Mozart's mark. If it's Purcell, it's not Purcell's mark. But if it's Julian Wagner, this is what he wants. Or if it's Poulenc, that's what he wants, and it's just kind of too fast, and you figure that out. So, but you have to kind of look at what the composer wants first to give you some kind of baseline, right? Okay, so dotted eighth equals 160. Anybody know how fast that is?
How much?
160.
Extremely.
Not really
extremely
Extremely,
fast.
extremely fast.
Right, can anybody do it?
Oh, 160.
No, it's a metronome mark. Well, what's 120? Wait a second, go back up a little bit. 60 is a second, right? 1, 1, 2, okay. And 120 is twice as fast. So 120 is 160 is gonna be faster than that. About, approximating, but it's to the dotted eighth. And how many are there in this bar? This is 16. It's really complicated, and I have to tell you, one of the things working with composers is that they write what they hear, and sometimes what they hear is what is on the page is what the computer has translated, what Fidali or Sibelius has translated from what they hear, and it's not necessarily the way we hear things or the way we work on things. Composers don't always think about the fact that it has to be performed and it has to be learned. And that singers are different than instrumentalists. This is something we need to remind them of sometimes. We don't have a keyboard or we don't have an instrument out here. We have to make it all up inside ourselves. We have to hear it. Okay, so what I see when I see lively dotted eighth equals 160 is, yeah, this is awfully fast. So that 160 is going to be equal to what on the page? Somebody said it already.
3/16.
And where do you get 3/16?
the accompaniment?
Pardon?
The accompaniment?
Yeah, it's in the piano part. But faster than that. So most of us can't do quite that. But that's what he has in his mind. Okay, then it's 8 over where 9 of those would be because we're in 12 time, as in 12/8, only it's 12/16, which again is making it more complicated. See, a lot of these things I feel are more complicated than they have to be, but it's what we see, and it's what we're given, and what we have to deal with. So why does it say 8 over 9? Are there 8 notes there? Yeah?
There's 8 16th notes.
Right, exactly, they're 8/16. So if we do a slow 16th, let's say this is our 16th note. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 2, 1, 2, okay. And then, what's our first beat? We don't have to actually figure this out today, but I wanted you to see what it's like. You're gonna get this kind of score. And then how do we simplify it? How do we organize it in order to do it? What's the first thing you look at when you look at a score? whether it's Mozart or this, or something crazy. That's the first thing you do with a piece of music. Sonnet. I asked my own
The
student.
beginning, the key, the rhythm, the tempo,
Oh, that's three different things.
and this is what I look at the beginning, the very first bar,
Right.
all the indications, what the composer wants.
Great, okay, so the first thing you see the key, you see the time signature, you see the tempo marking, maybe you see a metronome marking. And then what do? It's an aria. Yep,
Figure out the text,
figure out the text meaning,
well, if it's in a different language, translate or see how it falls in the rhythm.
and what do you do with that? After you figure it out.
I look at the piano part,
Look at the piano part.
and then with the melody and see how.
So are you a pianist as well as a singer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why you were going at it that way. I just want to suggest that the first word that should come to you when you're looking at a score, a new score of any kind, is rhythm. What's the rhythm? Find the rhythm first. One of the ways to make scores more accessible is to, by that I mean the whole rhythm, is to separate the rhythm from the pitches. And it's extremely important with contemporary music. Why? Why can't you just go for the pitches first? You know, play them on the piano and do that.
You should always do pitches like last.
Yeah, but why?
Because if you're not sure with the rhythm, then you're gonna guess the pitches too, and you're gonna guess the rhythm. And probably the text is also not gonna be precise.
Okay, my sentence always is, the right note at the wrong time is the wrong note. There is no point in you're doing 3 times the work. If you get your pitches first, and then you have to put them somewhere, muscle memory is God, muscle memory is the thing that sticks the most. If you learn things in a particular way, I'm sure you all have places in any kind of aria, you have that, oh yeah, I always get that wrong. That's because you learned it incorrectly to begin with. And it's muscular memory and oral memory, and you have to work very hard to undo it, much harder to undo it than to learn from the beginning, learn it correctly. So, we do the rhythm first, and how do we do the rhythm? We're not gonna work with this anymore, so you can erase it. How do we do the rhythm? Here, I'm gonna find something just to work with. How do we do the rhythm? Yeah.
You write in your counts and then you try to speak it in the rhythm that it is. Or clap it.
Right.
So
I'm
you-
sorry, say that again?
Like if it's like complicated, like the example we just saw, you can like write in your counts, like 1 and 2 and, etc. And then try to either speak it or clap it in the rhythm.
So what's my meter?
5/4.
Wait a second.
6/4.
5/4.
6/4.
6/4 or 6? How about this?
6.
Wait, is it 6 or 12?
No,
What did I
it's
give you? I gave you 12. Sorry.
Or 12, 8. So 6/4 or 8.
1, 2, 3,
Or
4,
12,
5, 6,
or
7,
8.
8. Here. That's what I meant to do. Sorry. Okay. So 12/8 is one of those compound meters that every composer loves because you could do so many different things with it. You can move the beats together any way you want. Okay, so the first thing we do is discover that. And then we're gonna say, is it divide up evenly by 12, the way 12/8 usually divides up? How does 12/8 divide up? In 3? Always? These are not lining up, by the way. That's one way. What's another way the 12/8 can line up? Can divide up, subdivide, group.
4, 3.
4 is the 4 of 3s, right. That's actually more common. So composers love this meter because they can go back and forth, and it feels like metric modulation. In fact, it's just a reorganization of the eighth notes of the beats. But because the beat itself, the major pulse is going to change, then it feels like they're changing everything. Okay, so you have to know that that's a possibility. Is this grouped that way at all? No. And the reason we know that is because of the ties over the bars. Okay, when you look at earlier music, as you all know, there's that wonderful moment in a Mozart concert aria where there's a lot of words and everything looks like that. Everything looks the same. So one of the things that I suggest is to find ways to make a score that's written that way look like this, which is not to actually write 1 and 2 and. When you write numbers like that over your score, we do have to make marks, of course, but when you write numbers like that, it's adding something else to the score, and it's adding something else to the piece of paper, and it's just going to make it harder for you to see what's actually there. But if I want to, let's say we're doing it, this is, okay, here's our 12/8 bar with all eighth note tails. So you can do, you want to mark where the quarters are? Uh-oh, I'm running out of juice here. I think I have another one. This is done. Can we get me another marker?
Yeah, he's getting it.
All right. Okay, getting off my tracker. So if we're in 12, or even if we make it easier and just make it in 6, we want to group the beats so that we can see them, right? And putting 1 and 2 and, or 1 E and it's an awful lot of extra stuff that you're adding. So I always like, you can, if it's big beats like the quarters, you could just put a tick mark like that, and just on the top. There are some singers I know that like to put it all the way through the score, through your words and everything, and then you can't really see what's there anymore. You always want to be able to see what the composer wrote, even if you can't read it quite yet. So there I would put ticks. And put them at an angle so they look different. Okay, so your words, your text is under here. And then, let's say, if you just want to group it together so that you see 4 beats, use a bracket over it, which is very written correctly, so that it kind of looks like the piano. And if you have any question about where the brackets go, look at the piano part, because we rarely have a lot of separate eighth notes unless it's a British score from the 18th century. Then all hell breaks loose. Okay, so have we answered that yet? What does 8/9 mean?
8 notes over 9 quarters or 8?
It means almost. With, well, we don't know yet. But with, let's say we're in, well, in this piece, the Wagner, we were in 12, right? Or were we in 9? We were in 12. So it means somewhere in the bar, in the space of where 9 eighth notes would normally go, there are only 8. Can you hear what that might be? Let's try this. So if I just go, okay, let's put 9 eighth notes. Put 3 together at a time. So 1, 2, everybody. Okay. Now just do the dotted quarters in this case, dotted eighth rather. Keep your subdivision going in your head. Now I want somebody to just do 8 within this space.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Now that's nice and even. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We better keep the subdivisions going. Down, up, up, down, down. Thanks. 1. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Somebody say count to 8 without that space. space. 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
1.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Right, it's very hard to do.
5, 6,
Okay, so the idea, I mean, what new music percussionist does is actually subdivide it further so they know whether it's going to be 32nd or 64th notes, and then they group them together and then they have it like that. You can do that. It's an intellectual exercise and it will make it very clear, but it won't really help you sing it ultimately. You have to find a way, so that means that the eighth notes within this 9 are just a little bit longer, right? So I would do the 1 first, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Somebody else do this with me? 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm just kind of stretching it out there. So you know that that's ultimately what you're working for, and then we have to look back at what the composer wrote, and why would he have done that? What does he want? Does he want it to line up? Can it line up?
Oh, it works for Chopin or Debussy.
And everybody does it their own way. So it's but you're absolutely right. It's a kind of rubato writing. Just to stretch out what the normal values that we know over, stretch it a little bit. Damn it, they must have had a backup generator, but you have to line up where the longer notes are. Okay, so this is just an example of what you may be faced with and how to break it down, how to organize the material. Always start with the rhythm, I can't say that enough. I want to, here, take out your clapping music for a minute. No. All right, we're not going to do this because we don't have a good time. Look at the clapping music, which is a piece by Steve Wright, which has been around since 1936. You didn't get one of these?
No.
Oh. All right, well, good. Here's a bunch. Here, just take some and pass them on. There's not enough for everybody, but just take some. Sorry, just share for this. Sorry, I thought I sent everything. There's
More. More.
Oh, I gave everybody. So what do you see? This, by the way, there's an app for this now, so you don't actually need another person. If you look up Steve Wright clapping music, you can practice with the app and of course change the tempi. So what do you see? What's the first, what meter are we in? Just answer.
12.
12/8, right. And what's the between person 1 and 2? What's the first measure?
What do you mean?
It's like we clap
What
it.
do you see? Yeah.
They're in unison.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So again, just deduce what's on the page and organize it. And then he says repeat each bar 12 times, so that's when you're doing the piece, you do it that way. What happens in the second bar?
The second voice gets offset by 1 beat.
Right, good. And what happens to the top voice?
It stays in the same.
And what do you see for the whole piece? What happens to the first voice? Stays the same. So it's the second one that gets offset and changes, okay? Let's just try this, those of you who can. The front row be person 1, the back row be person 2. So we're gonna do it slower. That's our 8th, yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, has to be together, has to be precise. 1, so we're in unison here. It should not sound like Lovely Rain. 1, 2. I have a theory, when opera scores are reduced to a piano score, which means you're taking 80 or 40 or however many instruments and squishing it down into 2 lines. Whenever there's a pizzicato in the orchestra, it's always written as a rolled chord, and I think that's because it's never together. I know that's just a convention, but okay, here we go. Let's try it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. What do you do before you start?
Breathe.
Breathe. And
Count 1, 2, 3, 4.
say that again.
Count beat 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the
So
song.
you hear the context before you start. Never start in a vacuum. That goes for your pitches, and that certainly goes for the rhythm. You have to hear a measure before you start, and you can take the time. There's always the time, and it's good to do it with your breath. Okay? So here's the measure before you start. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move to the second measure, go. Who's doing the second line? Okay, so move to the second measure method. Did you all notice how different it was when you started, however? That's the only way to start. If everyone just started, people just started, they just sit down and play, or you just sit down and start to sing, stand up and start to sing. Take a second. It doesn't take very long. You have to do that first. Let's try this one more time. Do the first measure twice, and then move on to the second bar. Let's see if we can stay together. 1, 2, ready, and. Change. Ready? Next. Okay, so this is another indication of how easy contemporary music looks sometimes. And it's not, I mean, this is not that hard because it's just the rhythms, but somehow it's very compelling. You can pull back into the first one. So this is something I would go online and find the app and see what you can do with it, or do it with each other, you know, when you have a break. Okay, now, speaking about rhythm, okay, I want to play this. I know you have this. Come out and play. Okay, let's look at that for a second. And somebody tell me what you see and what you think this might be, and how do you know, and what's unusual about it, and yeah.
It's probably some sort of jazz standard, just with the notation, font, and,
Yeah, the font, it's true, it's a jazz font. It's the real book font, is it? Okay, so, well, be specific, you're right.
Yeah, like, you really only sing, rather than there being, you have only the chord symbols above, and usually you don't have that in, imitative classical music, where.
Except for Baroque music, but then it's figured bass and it's underneath. Okay, and it's not the same symbols. Okay, what else? What else is different about this score? It's not because the copyist was lazy.
There's no key signature.
Right, and also by the second line, there's no clef. They just don't bother. They just don't bother. They figure it's going to stay the same. If it's different, then they change it. Okay, you're right. It's Rufus Reed and Luigi. Okay, so this starts a little bit before this, and you have to hear where it comes in. It's right after the snare solo. See if you can follow along and keep the beats going. If you can either conduct, by the way, conducting is really good. Tapping your foot is a little far away from the voice. So what I like to do is just everybody tap on your collarbone, right there. Do you feel that in your body? Yeah. And so it's very, you don't have to get a black and blue mark, just be nice to yourself. You know, just tap it gently. You can actually do this on stage. Nobody will know. You know, if you're walking on the stage, you can do that. But that's really a good place to tap. it's just, this is too far away, also makes noise, tapping on the music stand maybe, sometimes if that's like that, but this is always handy. Okay, so after the snare solo, it comes in, it's kind of hard to catch, but by the second bar, we should know where we are. Let's see if I'm at the beginning here. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Different of what we're hearing from what is on this piece of paper, not you, someone else. Someone who hasn't done jazz. Does this, when we were listening to this, da 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 beep ba 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 da da da, is that what's here?
Yeah,
What's different?
It's kind of improvisation on what's written.
No, actually it's exactly this, except for one thing. There's
No word.
what's different about the rhythm than what's written here?
Swung versus straight.
Yeah, it's swung. So you have to know that if you get a jazz score, or if you get something that looks like this, or if you sing, what do you call it? Parts of street scene, which are swung, and it says so in the orchestra score. It doesn't ever say that in the piano vocal at all. So you have to, the conductor might say, don't play that so straight, and you think, well, why not? That's what it is. But it's chord 5, so he straddled both worlds, and he would just write swung. So what does it mean to swing it?
Oh, you?
Yeah.
Sorry. It's, I don't remember how to explain it.
Okay, here's what's written. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can do it. What's this? Not what I was playing, but that's not what's on the recording. What's the difference? Yeah.
They kind of like put like different like emphasis on it. So instead of the way it's written, they were like dun dun na 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 instead of da da dun for the 8th note.
Okay, so one of the important things about being a singer in the world of new music is knowing how to talk to composers and knowing how to describe things you want, things you don't want, describe your own voice, describe what you like about your voice, which we mostly don't do. You know, that feels very egotistical to say I have a fabulous B flat, my B natural's not so great. But you have to do that, the composers need to know. So can you say that you're exactly right, but can you use musical terms and be more specific?
I think I can say it like too specifically. So
You sang it correctly, the different way.
they don't stress the beat that you would typically stress on this.
Not really about stress. Did you have an answer? Yeah.
Oh, isn't swing when you divide the measure into thirds?
Divide the measure into thirds. I'm not sure what that means.
Like there's subdivisions.
Go ahead.
Kind of like Alejandro was saying, there's subdivisions, and you emphasize like a certain note in the measure.
Okay, so again, it sounds like emphasis to us, but it's not about emphasis. What is it? Sorry, I don't know your name with you, but since you knew immediately what.
I'm trying to think, 'cause it's not even like he's like kind of sliding into it, but it's more like.
Okay, let's do this. look at the second line, and I want you to ta that, okay? We're no pitches or anything, we're just doing rhythm here. So, a little bit slower, 1, 2. Da 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 da. Okay, let's do it up to tempo again, and 1, 2. Da 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 da. Great. Okay, now swing it. And what are you doing when you swing it? Yeah, you want to try it?
Oh, I was gonna say like
No.
make it like short. Oh, never mind.
No, I want you to do it.
Are they,
Okay,
is it
here
not
we go.
like triplets?
There you go.
Yeah.
It's not like triplets, it's triplets. Da 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 dee da. So people say, oh, they dot it when they swing it. No, you don't really dot it because that would be dum ba da ba da. How does a dotted figure work differently? Here, if we have, oh goodness. Okay, if we have this, a dotted figure, right? Or we have, we have that, let's do that one last, actually, or we have the triplets. Okay, if you're subdividing a quarter note, whatever we're in, if you're subdividing a quarter note into a dotted rhythm, can we do that? 1, 2, just ha, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so pretty crisp, right? So if you subdivide it, what's in between the dotted eighth and the 16th? Here we go.
Not much.
Not much. Okay, what's in between there? If that's our tempo, one subdividing. 1, 2, 3, go. Nope. Da 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 da. That has to be subdivided into what?
4.
Someone said 4? 4 what?
16.
Right. So see what I mean? I mean, I'm saying the same thing over and over in different ways. You have to be really specific, and you have to be specific in your own head, or your rhythm isn't going to be accurate. Why does that matter, by the way? We're singers. I mean, goodness. You know, when you sing bel canto, is the rhythm accurate? Kind of, sort of. Well, why? Why does this matter? That you know exactly where the notes are rhythmically. Sorry, I'm not looking over here at all. But yeah.
Well, the composer has an intention, and people I feel like
More basic than that.
There is an orchestra or pianist and you have.
More basic than that. From the singer's point of view, why does it matter that the rhythm is accurate?
So you can breathe.
So you can
Breathe.
So you can breathe. So you can, after that, you can't sing with freedom and with full tone and with and expressiveness, whatever you want to do, unless you tell your body what to do first. And if the rhythm isn't clear, if you aren't telling your body what to do, that's when you get these kind of weird or strange half singing, and that's when your coach says, "What about that upbeat? Or what about the dotted rhythm? I don't hear any resonance there." And then you do it again, and they say, "No, that's a triplet." You have to know what you're doing rhythmically. In the same way, why is it important? Why is diction really important? Besides for comprehension and all of that, and drama and all of that. But just from the singer's point of view, yeah.
Also, the lyrics helps us to support. You know, we know what exactly to do, so our body know what to do.
What is it that you know how to do with lyrics that matters so much for the singing? I'm trying not to give you the answer by giving you the answer.
The vowels.
The vowels. The vowels have to be exact, right? I mean, you all hear about that all the time. Your vowels aren't consistent, they're not precise, or some people think French vowels are produced differently. I mean, there's all different points of view about this. But the vowels have to be accurate so that your voice knows where to go, so that placement, all of that stuff. The rhythm has to be accurate so you know where to put those vowels. Okay, so it really gets back to that. It's yes about the music. And it's about being able to communicate the music accurately and correctly and with enjoyment. Because that, of course, is what we're doing. That's why we're doing this. By the way, every time Lucy talks about this stuff, we talk about toolboxes a lot, you know, your rhythmic toolbox and your melodic, your pitch toolbox. But then she talks about playing and about being in a different playground with these pieces, which I think is great. I mean, we don't call it working music when someone says, what are you doing today? Or what do you do for a living? You know, you say, I play music, I don't work music. And I think the more we can remember that, when we're faced with these scores which are impenetrable or seem impenetrable, it'll be a lot more enjoyable. And that's the basic reasons for dividing all this up. Okay, so that's why this matters. Okay, so I want you to do 2 measures of this, that 1, 2, and then 2 measures of this, and then 2 measures of that. So, sorry, it goes all the way out, right? And without doing it, 2, 3, 4, these are not lined up. What is going to be the difference between this and this? Okay, just think about that for a second. Can you hear it? By the way, it goes eye, ear, voice. You see it, you hear it in your inner ear, and then you sing it. Most of the time, we go voice,
Yeah.
we just sing it first. And then we'll say, well, I don't know if that's quite right. Let me change it again. But you've already kind of skipped 2 steps, which will make life much easier. Sometimes it seems like it's going to take much longer to do it through these steps, but ultimately it works better because you don't have to change it. You don't have to fix everything. Okay, so 3, what did I say, to do the dotted rhythm first? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, not together. Let's try it again. No, the quarter stays exactly the same. The quarter stays the same. So our beat is the same. So how do you get this right?
So we divide into the 8 first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Subdivide, subdivide, subdivide. If you ask a couple of things, I used to say subdivision is God, but then rhythm is God. So it's either bigger or smaller. If you ask an instrumentalist, how do you do that? How do you play that section? And you're asking about something really beautiful, and maybe it's fast, but it has a gorgeous arc, they will probably tell you they subdivide. That's how they practice. For some reason, we don't do that. But it's kind of the answer. And if you chunk your music in small little bits, for instance, people, I'm skipping all over here. If you have a piece of music, okay, we're going to do this again. Make it easy. All right, that's how we're trying. Okay. Let's do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep that going. There you go. Okay, now you really feel the difference between that 16th note and the 3rd part of the triplet. And it matters so much. And this has to have more weight. It probably has more length to the vowel, all kinds of things like that. So this rhythm, can you see what that is? So I didn't really need the triplet figure there, but that's okay. Who wants to try this? And what get complicated about this a little bit for singers very often? Yeah, okay. Well, in a context, which means you have to go 3, 4. Okay, and do it yourself. Yeah.
3, 4. Da 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 da.
Great. Was that correct? What's hard about it? Or hard?
Tie.
The ties. So if ties get in your way when you're learning a piece, because you can't feel where the subdivision is or where the beat is, what do? When we're learning a piece,
Take them out.
take them out. You want to know where the beats are. Ta, tum, ta, 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 ta. You grunt, you make some sound. You do something, but do it physically. Physicalize where the beats are. And then that will bring you in right. Okay, we have to stop with rhythm for a bit. Can we go please? No, actually, one more rhythm thing. Okay, look at this one. It says smack it on. There's this I grew up singing rounds in the car for every trip. There's this wonderful pink book that has 400 rounds in it by everybody you can think of. From Pat Shaw to Beethoven to Peter Schickele. Okay, the second one. Can somebody just speak the words for me? That's the first thing you do, speak them out of rhythm, right? Okay, so one person.
Dvorak and Janacek are the most famous composers of Czechoslovakia.
Mhm.
They often wrote tunes in this curious rhythm.
Uh-huh. Okay, so that's how you say the composers' names. And with Czechoslovakia, as opposed to Czechoslovakia, which is what we mostly say in this country. Okay, now what do you see? What's the meter? This is just what we've been talking about.
3/2.
3/2, which means what? Means 3 beats in the measure and a half note gets the beat. Okay, which is kind of equivalent, could be equivalent to, in a smaller denomination, 6/8, right? Yes? In terms of the number of eighth notes in the bar. Are you with me? Yeah, okay, this shouldn't be too hard. What do you see when we look at the, pardon?
6/4.
Yes, I'm sorry, 6/4, right. What do you see when you look at the organization here of the beats?
It turns into 9,
If-
8.
If you were just looking at the first bar, what meter would you say that's in? 3/2. What about the second bar?
6/4.
6/4, because it seems to group itself in how?
Quarter.
Yeah.
In 3.
In
Um, 6/4.
Into 8 to 6.
Pardon?
Into 8 notes.
Into, well, it's not gonna be eighth notes, because we were talking about 6/4.
Quarter note.
Dotted quarters, we need 2 beats. And what about where it says 2, which means the next group comes in?
It goes into 8.
Well, I'm looking for the big beats, for the pulses here,
3.
which is similar to which bar? Right, at the first. And then the next bar, the Czechoslovakia bar, is that in 3 or in 2? If the stress is on va. Right, and then the next bar, 3, and then back at 2. Okay, so this piece, each bar is doing a little metric modulation, going back and forth between 3 and 2, similar to the famous song from West Side Story that we all know. So, ba 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 ba. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Right? Everybody just do that. F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Right, very compelling and fabulous to dance to, and tango. Okay, so this, let's say these words, can we? 1 and 2. Sorry, say the words in the rhythm. Yes, sorry. Okay, 1, so I'm going to give you 3, 1 measure in 3 for nothing. 1, 2, 3. Okay, right, try, now before we say it out loud, look at it. Eye to ear, hear it in your head. And we just went through it, we just organized the rhythm, right? Where's the big pulse gonna be in the second measure?
R.
On the C.
On the C, what syllable?
Dvo and
R.
Yeah, right. You're saying ah?
Yeah,
Ya, it's ya.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the second beat is on ya, right? And where are the big pulses in the third measure? Which words?
Are the famous posers?
One person, I guess, give me the answer. Are,
famous,
Fay,
and pulse,
okay, and the next bar?
che and va.
Right, remember I said you have to be careful you say vakia, not vakia. Okay, so let's speak it again, let's try. 1, 2, 3. Okay, what's our subdivision that we hear all the time in this piece? What note value do we have as a subdivision that stays constant?
Quarter.
Quarter, right. You could say eighth, but that would be awfully little for this tempo. So quarter, which means right from the very first bar, you're going ta na, right? Ta pa pa, and then you have your quarter. Try it again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the cardinal rule with sight singing is don't stop. And I'll meet you at the double bar, okay? Let's try it again. We could do it a little slower, but I don't think you'll get the feel of the rhythm as well. 1 and 2 and go.